All right, the Auburn Tigers have had 1 week to let that loss at Gainesville soak in. The season's not over. There's a whole lot of football left to be played. We knew that the schedule was brutal. And yes, Auburn was a slight favorite at Florida, but they've got the SEC West to run through and no time to look down, but look up and look straight ahead at the rest of the schedule. We got Joe Hunk on the line from the Fallout at 7:40 a.m. Joe, how you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, man. It was weird not having an Auburn football game on Saturday, and there's going to be a second one of these weeks coming up here in a little bit. So there's 2 bye weeks this time, so that actually could help Auburn depending on how you look at these things. And with the fact that what you just talked about, they lose to Florida, they lose their running back in the process, and now they had a week to try to figure out who on earth is going to be the guy that's going to be able to take over.
So when you get the kind of plays that they did on defense against Florida, they had 2 Derek Brown strip sacks, basically. Both went back for long distances. A missed fake punt for Florida. Typically, that's almost like a turnover as well. A lot of things happened right for them, but they just couldn't get the passing game going. 11 of 27. For Bo Nix, some misfires in the red zone that cost them dearly because they didn't even get field goals out of them with the interceptions. Take us through that one, not necessarily just in and of itself, but how that projects forward and what you're expecting against the better teams on the schedule.
Well, it was weird with the fact that, I talked to you before that game. I talked to a few people down in Florida, and the one thing that I kept emphasizing was, does Florida have somebody to stop Anthony Schwartz? And the answer was yes. It was Gus Malzahn to stop Anthony Schwartz on that, and that was kind of the big question coming out of that football game. There were multiple questions, but one of them was, where on earth was he? What was the play calling? Why was the fact that he wasn't getting the touches? When you're the fastest guy in college football, you should be getting more than 2 touches, and that's exactly what happened. And honestly, when you look at the way that Bo Nix did play, he played like a true freshman playing in a hostile environment. But the thing is you can look back at that game, and even with as bad as he played, the 3 interceptions that he threw, there were opportunities for Auburn to win. That defense played like a national championship defense. Whenever Auburn would screw something up on the offensive side, you could turn around and the defense would get the football back, or they would get a turnover, or like you were talking about with Derek Brown, like if he doesn't trip over the 40-yard line, that's a touchdown right there. And even with the interception that Bo Nix threw in the end zone, the sad thing about it was it was 3rd down. He was trying to get the touchdown to go ahead. A field goal would have got him within 1 point. He wanted the touchdown. The only problem was he was throwing it into double and triple coverage. And if you go back and watch the play, he had a running back wide open with nobody around him. Now, would that running back have gotten a touchdown? We don't really know, but it would have set up for a very easy field goal so that Auburn would only been 1 point down with a lot of football left to play. And so there were just bad decisions all around in that game. I think Auburn would love to have that game back and redo it because of how well their defense had played. And if their defense plays that well against LSU, Georgia, and Alabama, there's a real chance that Auburn's going to upset one of those, and a lot of people are picking the Georgia game to be the one that they're going to upset.
So as you mentioned, Boobie Whitlow out of the lineup. How do you look at the running back distribution going forward?
Well, there's one guy that nobody has really seen, and he's a former Appalachian State commit. He decommitted there in December right before National Signing Day. He signed with Auburn. He was an early enrollee, and that guy I'm talking about is DJ Williams. He's kind of been this guy that we've heard about, we've seen kind of in punt returns or kickoff returns, but we really haven't got to see on the field. And the rumor is he's supposed to be the guy that's supposed to replace Boobie Whitlow. Now, how many carries he's actually going to get in this game against Arkansas, we don't know, because you also have Cam Martin, you also have Shivers, you have Harold Joyner, you have a bunch of players, but DJ Williams is the one supposedly from body frame to body frame, comparing him with Boobie Whitlow, he is supposed to be the guy that can actually physically take up the workload of Boobie Whitlow. Thing is they've had about 13 days to figure this out, and we're going to see what happens on Saturday. But again, if you're going up against a team and you got to figure out who your star running back is going to be, going up against the team that has one of the worst rushing defenses in the SEC is not a bad place for you to kind of figure this out. before you go into Death Valley next.
So at one point, we certainly judge teams and evaluate them preseason, and then unless they do something remarkable to break that perception, then the perception holds. And Arkansas would be one of the bottom dwellers of the SEC, and they're playing like it to a certain extent, but they barely lost to Kentucky last week, and Kentucky was playing with a limited quarterback situation. They did take Texas A&M to the wire, so this isn't necessarily, it's an 18-point spread according to Vegas, so it's not a give me in the classic version. I know that Auburn fans want to look forward, as the rest of us do, to the bigger games, and if Auburn can't get past this, then forget it. Then they're not capable of doing much down the stretch. But as you look at Arkansas, do you have any concerns about this and how and assuming that this is a victory, as it should be, what are you looking to see that's going to make you feel better about November?
Well, with Auburn, the thing that you're looking for is, yes, establishing the running game, because you are going to need that next week against LSU. The other thing that you're wanting to see is Bo Nix making smarter plays with the RPO. See, the problem in 2019 is we don't know what the play calls are a lot of times. And so when you see a quarterback either make a bad read, throw an interception, or you start wondering, well, why wasn't he running the football more? Why wasn't he passing it more? Why wasn't he doing this? The RPO is so prevalent in college football now that there was a lot of pre-snap decisions that were made. And so we don't know if somebody was audibled out or based on the decision and all of that sort of stuff. So I really want to see him making better decisions. And with this Auburn team, it's also going to be about staying healthy, because the only way that Auburn's going to be able to keep up with LSU, to keep up with Georgia and Alabama later on in the season, is if this defense is healthy. And so that is where we're looking at with them when it comes to the things that we're looking for. The difference in this football game isn't the fact that Arkansas is a bad team. They're around the middle of the SEC when it comes to almost every important stat except for one, and that's the one that's extremely important, and that's red zone offense. This team is horrible once it gets inside the 20-yard line, and when you're like one of the worst teams in not just the SEC but college football and scoring in the red zone, you're going to lose a lot of football games. Auburn converts about 83% of their red zone conversions, where Arkansas somewhere around 60 to 65%. Once you get inside that red zone, you're going to have a problem. The thing is even with Arkansas, is we don't even know who the quarterback is going to be. It may be one, it may be the other, it may be both. Chad Morris really hasn't kind of relayed that. In fact, he even said in his press conference, hey, look, these guys may not know until they hop on the bus to head over to the stadium who's going to be starting in this game on Saturday. So that's going to be it. And the other thing is the one thing that is nobody really talks about. You're on the road, 11 a.m., before you go into a hostile environment, LSU next weekend. This is the true definition of a trap football game. And when you lost to LSU, or when you lost to Florida 2 weeks ago, and everybody's kind of already looking at that game against LSU where you haven't won in 20 years, there's a potential that you could see players overlooking Arkansas because of the fact that they are one of the worst teams in the SEC.
Joe Hunk, 740 The Fall out there in Montgomery, Alabama. I encourage you to check out his show. He comes on here on a regular basis and breaks down Auburn football, also the Tide of Alabama. Joe, I would love to wind you up and let you go for another 30 minutes, but we're both pressed on time, unfortunately, this week. It's always a good discussion, and I just let you have the floor and take it on. So we appreciate you stopping by to set us up for the Tigers and the Hogs.
Always, man. And just letting you know, Alabama's beating Tennessee, if you're just curious. Just letting you know.
They should be able to handle that. They can get it done, you think?
I think they got that one under control.
All right. You've maybe convinced me. Thanks, Joe.
Hey, thanks, man.